Hello, everyone. My name is Shahid, and I'm from the University of Regina in Saskatchewan, Canada. I worked alongside my honors supervisor in my last year of undergrad to conduct research on mental health perspectives in middle-aged Muslims residing in Canada. My research is not directly related to displaced peoples, but my demographic highly consisted of immigrants and a few refugees. So speaking in regard to issues with displaced peoples, I believe that mental health is of vital importance, and I don't believe that this need is being fulfilled. More specifically, I believe that mental health services are not as accessible or inviting in Canada for displaced peoples. 23% of Canada's population are immigrants as of 2021, which roughly translates to 8.8 million Canadians according to Stats Canada. From the years 1980 to 2017, Canada has welcomed over 1 million refugees, according to the UN Refugee Agency. Now, it is pretty well known the kinds of living conditions refugees have come from and the kinds of violence and difficulties they may have been exposed to in their home countries. This trauma is carried within them despite having left war-torn areas or persecution behind, and oftentimes this trauma is then passed down generations as intergenerational trauma. Due to the need to relocate and adapt to new environments, the mental health of immigrant populations may be greatly affected. So here we have an individual that has to deal with relocating and uprooting their entire life to a new country. And if this were a refugee, on top of that, they're struggling with all the trauma that they have been exposed to. So in spite of all this, mental health services are underutilized by immigrant communities in Western settings. As an immigrant myself and growing up amongst an immigrant community my entire life here in Canada, I have never heard anyone talk about mental health. I didn't even really learn about it at the high school I attended here in Regina. I actually came across the notion of mental health through the internet, and it sparked my interest as to why it's something that was never spoken about. It's only now as a researcher I'm beginning to see the reasons why and the detrimental effects there are to neglecting mental health. There aren't many immigrants that I know that don't stigmatize or shame mental health or professional mental health services to this day. There are many refugees in the Muslim community, and yet seeking professional mental health is still something that is looked down on. Because my work was with the Muslim population, research demonstrates that there are lots of reasons why Muslim immigrants might be less likely to seek professional mental health services. For example, possessing distrust of Western psychology, stigma, lack of familiarity and lack of education about formal services and mental illnesses, language barriers, lack of cultural and religious background, and also discrimination. It is also important to acknowledge the diverse beliefs and perceptions held among the many ethnicities and cultural contexts that make up the immigrant, migrant, and refugee population. Individuals from different cultures comprehend and describe mental illnesses differently, resulting in varying remedies and coping strategies. Giving an example from my work, many Muslim ethnicities encompass a collectivist lifestyle, whereas Western communities encourage a more individualistic way of life. Due to these distinctions, many Muslims may feel that professional mental health services in the West do not apply to them, and thus they do not seek out these services. I believe that this can also be generalized to displaced people due to the difference in culture and possibly predominant religion. Without culturally sensitive services, the mental health of ethnic and racialized minority groups may worsen due to the predicted exponential growth of these populations within Canada. So considering all of this, I believe that as psychologists, we should work towards destigmatizing mental health as a whole, as well as destigmatizing seeking professional services in immigrant, migrant, and refugee communities, as well as creating or altering current Western therapeutic practices to better apply to displaced peoples. Thank you.